Good morning.
Morning.
That was nice. It is now 10 a.m. on Tuesday, March 25th, 2025, and I am calling this meeting of the Executive Committee of the State Bar Board of Directors to order. With our agenda posting, we have invited members of the public to view a broadcast of the Executive Committee meeting, which is live at www.youtube.com/State Bar of Texas. We also provided instructions on how to sign up to speak at today's meeting. Sign-ups to speak remotely were available until 5 p.m. Central yesterday. Members of the public, and no one signed up by that deadline. Members of the public who may be here. I'm not aware that we have members of the public here with us this morning in person, but they would speak under agenda item 3, and those members of the public who are joining remotely will remain, and there are none who signed up by the deadline, but would have remained in the waiting room until it was their turn to speak. Please note that this meeting will be recorded and the recording will be made available to the public. And at this point, I will now call upon our Executive Director, Trey Apfel, who will call roll.
Director Benish.
Here.
Judge Bullard.
Here.
Director Cantu.
Here.
Director Cochran.
Here.
Director Harrison.
Here.
Director Hill.
Good morning.
Director Huddleston.
Here.
Senior Justice Learman has an excused absence. Director Masri.
Hi.
Director Morales has an excused absence. Director Pratt.
Here.
Director Quadros has an excused absence. Director Sloan has an excused absence. Director Stafford.
Present.
Director Tisdale.
Here.
Director Tobin.
Here.
Director Vargas.
Here.
Director Wooten.
Here.
Justice Young.
Here.
President, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Executive Director Apfel. At this point, we would have gone through the agenda to call for public comments from those who had signed up to speak remotely by yesterday's 5 p.m. deadline, or if they had appeared here in person. But we will skip past that since there are none in either category. I do ask during the remainder of the meeting if there are board members or staff who wish to speak, please do so by approaching the podium, and I will let you know when it's your turn to speak. Now we will hear again from Executive Director Trey Apfel.
Good morning, directors. I'm going to give you an update on the upcoming annual meeting. We continue to prepare for that meeting that's going to be held June 19 and 20 at the JW Marriott Hill Country Resort in San Antonio. The annual meeting committee is hard at work finalizing our slate of keynote speakers and raising funds to cover the cost of the event. If you are interested in sponsorships, please let us know. Also, planning is underway for this year's Local Bar Leaders Conference, which will take place July 24-25 at the Westin Galleria in Houston. As you know, this conference brings together local and specialty bar leaders, young lawyer affiliate leaders, and access to justice delegates from across Texas to share information and ideas to help them better serve their members. The conference is one way that the State Bar meets our statutory purpose of encouraging the activities of local bars throughout the state. The 89th Texas legislative session began January 14, 2025. Bill filing concluded on March 14. Our Governmental Relations Department has reviewed more than 8,900 bills, all filed, and they review them for impact on the State Bar of Texas or the legal system. One of those bills is House Bill 5104, which, among other things, would make membership in the State Bar of Texas voluntary. As you know, the mandatory bar structure is used by most states because it has proven to be the most effective and efficient way to regulate the legal profession. As a mandatory bar, the State Bar of Texas is self-funded through attorney dues and fees, which relieves Texas taxpayers of the burden of funding attorney regulation. House Bill 5104 would retain the same regulatory system while removing or jeopardizing the funding that currently supports it, and without providing any alternative source of funding. We'll be working with leadership on this matter, and we will have more to report to you at the April board meeting. As you will recall, the Board of Directors recently amended rules to allow attorneys to receive a maximum of 3 hours per an MCLE compliance year of accredited CLE for coaching or judging mock trial, moot court, arbitration, alternative dispute resolution, mediation, transactional, client counseling, and negotiation competitions. To date, 175 requests for accreditation have been received. The MCLE department also received the following email from a sponsor in California. Every now and then staff will receive a kudos, but this one stood out. I wanted to share it with you. And I quote, "I have been reporting MCLE attendance via your portal for over 2 years now, and your team is amazing. Your service, dedication, and quickness in evaluating and updating the portal is beyond expectations. I also report to California. Don't get me wrong, I'm a Californian, but the MCLE team could learn a thing or two from your standards. This is to say thank you." So I just wanted to share that with you, and kudos to our MCLE staff for their excellent customer service. And we'll be looking forward to giving a further, more in-depth report at the board meeting. And that completes my report.
Thank you very much. Are there any comments from the directors relating to the executive director's report? Hearing none, I'll move on. I believe I'm next on the agenda. I've got a few comments to make. It's been a busy few months since our last board meeting. I've been to a couple of dozen events and speaking engagements and legal related meetings and travels. I will not run through that list. It's the mercy rule, not run through that list of events I've gone to. One of the things I'm particularly pleased about is that I've seen so many members of the State Bar Board of Directors as I've traveled around the state over this last quarter. And I will feature those directors during my report at the Board of Directors meeting here in a couple of weeks. But I did want to mention that my travels over the last quarter, among other places, took me to Austin and Corpus to Galveston. This is law-related travel. San Antonio, Houston, Fort Worth, Dallas, Nacogdoches, and College Station. And I look forward a week from today to being in El Paso to address the local bar there in El Paso. And just to highlight one event per month. Over the last 3 months. In January, it was my pleasure to attend the National Conference of Bar Presidents and to caucus and fellowship with the state bar presidents from all over the United States and to share best practices, to talk about trends and challenges in the practice of law. And I enjoyed that opportunity to participate in that. In February, it was my pleasure to attend the State of the Judiciary address by our Supreme Court Chief Justice Jimmy Blacklock, who addressed a joint session of the legislature from the well of the House. I was the host that day for the Lord Chancellor of the United Kingdom, who was in with a contingency from Great Britain to attend that event and a number of other events over a period of a few days. And then in March, it was my pleasure within the last couple of weeks to attend the induction ceremony for the Texas Board of Legal Specialization. And a number of attorneys were certified, inducted, sworn in by Supreme Court Justice Bland, and 23, I didn't even know that the specialization had been around this long, were honored for being certified by TBLS for 50 years. And so that was quite an amazing event to attend. Our next board meeting, to remind you, is coming up in April. It will be in Sugar Land. We'll be in Fort Bend County. And while we're there, we're going to host a free in-person CLE, as we always do. It'll be on April 24th. It will be for solo and small firm practitioners. And I want to thank Brittany Harrison, who's here with us today, with Allison Martinez and Radha Thiagarajan for their help, along with Joshua Weaver, in agreeing to join me as speakers at that event. That is a valuable service we provide to local attorneys wherever and whenever our State Bar Board meets around the state. The attendees will receive 2.5 hours of free CLE credit, and registration is open now on the Texas Bar CLE website. I wanted to mention a couple of technology-related initiatives and projects that we have going on right now. As you may recall, one of my goals as State Bar President was to help the State Bar make its website more user-friendly, more navigable. I am pleased to report that we continue to move forward with the website redesign project. We have now selected and retained a vendor, a third-party consultant who's going to help us with that work, which will begin soon. One of the primary goals of the project is to make it as user-friendly as possible and to organize the content in a way that it's easy to find and accessible. Among other things, the site will include an FAQ, a frequently asked questions page, which will be an online database of common questions and issues and problems and concerns that lawyers and non-lawyers alike may share with clear and concise answers to them. While we're on the issue of technology, let's talk a little bit about artificial intelligence. The State Bar leadership continues to closely follow issues surrounding the evolution of AI, including its beneficial uses and the potential ethical pitfalls. This I'm excited about, and I must say at the National Conference of Bar Presidents, it became clear to me that we are the national leader in connection with an online resource to be made available to our members in connection with the use of artificial intelligence. As you may recall, the State Bar has a task force for responsible AI and the law, TRAIL, which was created under immediate past President Cindy Tisdale's. Thank you for your presence this morning under her administration to develop, among other things, to develop an online toolkit to help Texas lawyers keep abreast of developments in the use of artificial intelligence in the practice of law. The toolkit will include resources to help attorneys navigate the use of AI safely and ethically. And it has such basic tools as sample law firm policies, as sample contractual language, as well as ethical considerations and the application of various disciplinary rules. The task force plans to have this toolkit available later this spring. And my counterparts, my colleagues who are the State Bar presidents around the United States keep electronically tapping me on the shoulder to say, how's it going? We want to see the template. We want to see what you've got when you're ready to roll so that we can use it as a basis in our states. I also, as I mentioned at the January board meeting, one of the recommendations that has arisen from the work of TRAIL was to request an opinion from the Professional Ethics Committee on the use of generative AI, and we made that request. TRAIL made that request for an opinion last spring. I'm pleased to report that last month, in February 2025, the Professional Ethics Committee issued opinion number 705, which focuses on ethical issues arising from lawyers' use of AI, and I encourage everyone to review that opinion in full. Well, if you'll give me a moment, I want to read just one clause from that because I think it's important for everyone who hears this and everyone who is here to understand the scope of that particular opinion. And the conclusion of opinion number 705 states as this: while there may be many ways that generative AI can assist in the practice of law and benefit lawyers and clients alike, Texas lawyers must always be aware of the ethical issues that may arise in the use of generative artificial intelligence. Among many other issues, lawyers should acquire basic technological competence before using any generative AI tool, should always ensure that the tool does not imperil confidential client information, should always verify the accuracy of any responses received from a generative AI tool, and should not charge clients for the time saved by using a generative AI program. In the same way, if I fly to El Paso next week, I can't charge the State Bar, my firm, or anyone else for the time saved by not going by covered wagon. I think it's an important development. We're all excited about that, and we look forward to the release of that toolkit. And with that, let me ask you as I conclude my report, are there any questions arising from the president's report? All right, with that, I think it's time for us to consider and discuss approval of the minutes of the January 9, 2025 Executive Committee meeting. I will need a motion in a second to approve those minutes, and let me remind the directors who are here, if you wish to make that motion, please state your name audibly. And any director who wishes to second the motion, please state your name as well. After it is seconded, I will call for discussion, and after any discussion, we will call for a vote. So does any director wish to make a motion to approve the minutes of the January 9, 2025 Executive Committee meeting?
So moved, Laura Pratt.
Thank you, Director Pratt. And a second?
Second, Director Harrison.
And a second by Director Harrison. Is there any discussion regarding the minutes? And with that, all directors who are in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, will say nay. The motion unanimously carries. Thank you. Let me give you an update. I guess I fibbed. I'm not quite done yet. So a little bit more. An update on where we are on at-large director appointments to the State Bar Board of Directors. As you may recall, there are 4 at-large positions on the State Bar Board. At the annual meeting coming up in June in San Antonio, the terms for 2 of the positions will expire. The State Bar invited potential nominees, anyone who was interested, to submit applications by December 2nd, and we received a robust response to that. The ad hoc committee to select at-large directors reviewed all of the nominations it received, conducted interviews of all of the applicants, and submitted to me 4 names for my consideration. I separately interviewed each of the 4 candidates. They're all incredible candidates, well qualified, tremendous experience and volunteer service. And it was a difficult decision, but I was pleased that we had so many qualified applicants to choose from. And I thank all of those who applied and encourage them to do so again in the future. I have selected Stephen M. Foster and Allison Fox Dahlberg, whose resumes appear in your materials, to fill those 2 positions. Those appointments, of course, will be presented to the board for consideration at the April meeting, and the terms of the positions will begin at the annual meeting in June. I want to thank our committee chair, Elizabeth Cantu. Director Cantu is with us today, and committee members Steve Chiscano, Director Harrison, who is with us today, Director Karen Locke, and Director Rudy Mateer for all their great work on the selection process. Liz, well done, Madam Chair. Next up is a report, speaking of chairs, from the chair of the board, Paul Stafford. Chair Stafford.
Thank you, President Benish, and thank you all for being here today. I appreciate it, and safe travels after we're concluded as well. Several directors have updated us, the board, and the executive committee on their efforts to speak to local bar associations and provide state bar updates in their districts. We appreciate those efforts, and we appreciate your willingness to continue to communicate with your constituents. We're always happy to see our directors engage with our constituents and our members, and we ask that you continue to do that. As a reminder, there are 2 CLE presentations that are provided for directors to aid in their presentations. One's about an hour update, and the other one is about a half-hour update. I actually had the pleasure of presenting to the American Association of Legal Administrators, there you go, about a week or 2 ago, and that was good, as well as a couple of other presentations that I did somewhat impromptu, just to small gatherings. One of them was my law school roommate who invited me to lunch, and it happened to be the Criminal Justice Lawyers Association of Brazos County. And so their speaker canceled. And so I went and gave them a really quick thumbnail update on some of the things that we were doing. And from all accounts, it was well received. Chair elections. I don't know if you've heard, but there's chair elections coming up in April at our April meeting. And the voting will be for the 2025-2026 chair of the board. There are 6 candidates: Brittany Harrison, Chrissy Castle, Rudy Mateer, Rosalind Perez, Shannon Quadros, and Michael Wynn. With that, I have nothing further to report, but I will field any questions. Thank you, Mr. President.
Very much. And there are being no comments from directors, we will move to the President-elect report. President-elect Santos Vargas.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. So my report today will focus on the Budget Committee, which I'm currently chairing for this board year. And first, an update on the proposed budget for fiscal year 2025-26. The proposed budget for fiscal year 25-26 has not changed since its presentation during the January board meeting. And your packet, which you've all received, includes a copy of the proposed budget as was published in the March issue of the Texas Bar Journal. The State Bar's Our Finances webpage includes a detailed report on the proposed fiscal year 25-26 budget. And this document includes a summary of each individual budget of the State Bar and a breakdown of the revenues and expenditures by each budget. The public hearing on the State Bar's fiscal year 25-26 proposed budget was held this morning at 9 a.m. here at the Texas Law Center and was well attended. And a motion will be made during the April meeting to obtain board approval to present the proposed budget to the Supreme Court. And pending board approval, a meeting will be held with the court on April 30th. Second, I have an update on the State Bar's financial trends, which is very important, but it's nice to see all the great work that the State Bar is doing and our staff is doing to alleviate and ameliorate some of the issues caused by some of these trends. The Budget Committee reviewed the State Bar's projections at its December budget meeting. While the State Bar's revenues are still not keeping pace with expenditure growth due to inflation, the Budget Committee has proposed a budget that would set aside savings to offset that trend. The proposed budget would set aside $524,910, bringing the total amount of funds saved to $7,985,361 to assist future budget committees in balancing the State Bar's budget. So the work that we're doing right now is going to pay off for years and years to come. The State Bar estimates it will have sufficient reserves or savings to cover projected deficits caused by inflation until midway through the fiscal year 2029-2030, or the next 3.5 years beyond this proposed budget year. The Budget Committee has determined that a dues referendum will not be necessary this time upon successfully passing the proposed budget for 25-26. And Mr. President, with that concludes my report. Thank you. I'm sure if anyone has any questions.
Thank you, President-elect Vargas. Before Santos sits down, are there any comments about President-elect Vargas's general report, his report on the proposed budget, and his report on the State Bar's financial trends before he sits down?
Thank you.
Thank you. Well done. I will eschew the opportunity to provide the traditional laudatory adjective that precedes her name. But next up to the next report is from the immediate past president of the State Bar of Texas, Cindy Tisdale.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, everyone. I have short and sweet today. Just an update on what I did. On March 14th, I was very honored to be able to present with our Executive Director, Trey Apple, to the 2025 Bar Leader Institute on the topic of value and engagement in mandatory bars. The panel included the Executive Director and past President of the Missouri Bar Association. So the four of us were able to talk about the value of mandatory bars, and it was moderated by the Executive Officer of the DC Bar. Just a little bit of an update on one of my goals for my year, and that was the mental health therapy benefit. So as you all know, we continue to provide and partner with BetterHelp.com. The benefit provides 1 free month of counseling for attorneys and 15% off counseling thereafter. Our latest statistics show, very proud of this, 453 members have used the program, and nearly 2,000 live therapy sessions have occurred through BetterHelp.com and the partnership we have with them. Members rate their overall satisfaction with this service at 92%. I wish my overall satisfaction rate was 92%. When we discuss this data, though, it's very important to remember, we do not get information from BetterHelp.com other than the numbers. It is confidential. If our attorneys use this program, we do not know of it. We do not get member data. All we get is the numbers. So I hope the members will take use of that. Members can find the discount code and sign up for the therapy by visiting texasbar.com/BetterHelp. And Mr. President, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Immediate Past President Tisdale. Are there any questions or comments from directors before Cindy sits down? Thank you. Well done. Next, we're going to hear from Immediate Past Chair Kenan Wooten, who will be speaking in connection with the Nomination and Elections Subcommittee. I yield.
Thank you very much. So as you all know, the state bar elections for president-elect and district director positions will kick off on April 1st. So it's just right around the corner. And we have two candidates for state bar president-elect, Deborah Cordova of Edinburgh and G. David Smith of Rockwall. They've been campaigning all over the state and they've been doing a great job. At my firm, they came together and so many people there commented about how much they appreciated the two of them being there together and the professionalism that it displayed. And I think they've been just displaying professionalism at every step, which is wonderful. There are no petition candidates this year. So in order to help the two president-elect candidates get their messages out to the state bar members, the candidates have created 2 videos and 2 written messages to go out to the state bar membership. The first video is going to be distributed by email and on YouTube on March 27th. The second one will be sent on April 17th. The written messages are going to be sent by email on April 3rd and April 24th. And the materials will also be shared on social media and the State Bar's website. So many different places to get information. We will have a candidate forum today at 2 p.m. And immediate past President Cindy Tisdale and I are going to be moderating that discussion. It will be broadcasted via Zoom, and there will be opportunities for lawyers to submit questions in real time during the forum. After that live broadcast, the presentation will be available on YouTube and on the State Bar Elections page, which is at texasbar.com/elections. We're also featuring information on the candidates in the April issue of the Texas Bar Journal. And there will be other communications such as emails to the membership and social media posts to help educate lawyers about the candidates they can vote for. We are asking everyone to help publicize the elections and help us increase our turnout as much as possible. Another thing that I heard the president-elect candidates tell people, and I thought this might be a motivating factor for some lawyers, is the sooner you vote, the sooner you stop getting emails about this election. And I remember President Benish doing a similar thing and the lawyer, oh, okay, good to know. You know, when can I start? So that's a good message to tell people, just to get them motivated to vote. Some people want to do it, forget about it, but if they know, they'll stop getting emails. If they just do it, they might do it. Okay, so there are 9 district director positions as well this year. There's a chart of the certified district candidates in your meeting materials. There is only one district that has a contested race, and that's District 2. A reminder that this year, the elections are going to be electronic only. This is new. This is something that I also heard the president-elect candidates telling people, and it's really important that we do the same so that people aren't waiting for snail mail they don't receive. So the State Bar is going to send emails, mail a postcard to all members. It's going to include a reminder about voting. The emails and postcard will include a link that takes you directly to the elections page and includes information about all of the candidates on the ballot. See this? Barcode. It's very easy to use. So election is going to end at 5 p.m. Central on April 30th. The results will be released that evening, as is the norm. So everyone make sure to spread the word and to vote. Thank you.
Thank you. And before Kenan sits down, are there any questions for immediate past Chair Wooten? Thank you. Well done. I have seen both candidates around the state, and they are running a wonderful campaign, working collaboratively and with great civility, as of course you would expect, knowing Deborah Cordova and G. David Smith. And so we should be very proud of that. The other piece of advice that I did give both candidates, which immediate past President Tisdale gave to me, is don't vote. This is just for the two of them. The rest of you ignore this completely. Don't vote until the last day. because you, while you're walking offices, want to know when the people you're visiting with last received a reminder email. And that way you can say, you can vote right now. You got an email yesterday and the subject line reads this way. I can wait while you find it on your computer. And once you vote, of course, it's the last thing you'll hear. But they've done a great job. Thank you very much. Next, we're going to hear from the aforementioned Director Liz Cantu, who is Chair of the Administration Committee.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
So as an update from the last meeting, you will recall on January 24th, when the board met, we were, as part of the administration committee, recommending to the board that it approve a proposed new rule from the Court Rules Committee to the Supreme Court, and this was Rule 500.2 AC. That motion was tabled because of some questions, great questions that Director Judge Charbonnet had about the proposed rule's impact on deadlines for appeals of filing suits to a higher court. So the administration committee had unanimously approved making a recommendation to the state bar to approve that proposed rule on January 14th. Following that meeting on March 12th, Judge Charbonnet and Chris Ritter, who I want to thank for taking, as always, such an active lead in resolving these issues with us, met with the chair of the subcommittee handling that rule for the Court Rules Committee, Karen Connolly. In that discussion, Ms. Connolly and Judge Charbonnet came to an agreement that a comment would help to clarify the impact of the new rule, and that all deadlines for appeals or filing suit in higher courts would run from the date of the conclusion of all pending matters, rather than when a specific claim was dismissed, especially when other claims, or specifically when other claims remain pending. In Justice Court, they agreed that this clarification would be helpful. So there would be a new comment addressing Judge Charbonnet's concern that will read, comment when a court sanctions a party and dismisses that party's cause of action or claim, but claims are still pending against the sanctioned party, the case remains under the jurisdiction of the Justice Court until a final judgment is issued by the Justice Court. Because nothing about the text of the previously considered proposed rule is changing, we expect the tabled motion to be considered by the Board of Directors at the April 25 Board of Directors meeting without any further action from the Administration Committee. And so I will report the developments back to the Board of Directors then, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Liz. Before Liz sits down, are there any questions for Director Cantu? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, we'll hear from Director Forrest Huddleston, who will provide a report as Chair of the Audit and Finance Committee.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So something that I'll kind of make a distinction about, I'll keep this decently short because Santos went over, where's Santos? There. Santos went over kind of the future forecast. The numbers that I'll go over today are really kind of looking backwards at the actuals compared to the budget. So something to think about is that whenever he's speaking, generally he speaks kind of forward looking. This committee generally will look kind of backward looking, specifically for the 8 months ended for this fiscal year. As you guys all know, fiscal year ends in May every year. So today we're going through the January year-ended numbers. So that's 8 months of the year. We still have 4 left to improve upon our financial position. So with that said, the State Bar's financial performance as of January 31st has been better than expected or budgeted, but revenue trends have been stagnant, which Santos went over. The general fund has a budget to actual positive net variance of about 2.6 million, and we're outperforming the budget for the 8 months of the fiscal year. And what that means is, with the budget that Santos is the chair for, we look forward and say, hey, this is what we're planning on for the upcoming year. We compare our actuals against that budget, and we say, hey, how are we doing against that? Now, another important lens to look at this through is looking at actuals compared to the prior year. Something that I'll go through here is that the State Bar is reporting less net income. So that's revenues minus expenses for the year at 1.1 million compared to last year's 3.3 million. This is primarily due to revenue growth slowing and then inflation as well, which I think we're all pretty familiar with. State Bar's general fund revenues actually decreased by 160,000. So a small decrease, but nothing to be alarmed about. Last year's actuals were 33.8 compared to 33.65. This is mostly because of Texas Bar CLE, which I think I've gone over in the past. It's about $265,000 less in revenue this year than last year. But when you're looking at Texas Bar CLE, you need to compare current year versus 2 years ago as well, because revenues tend to be higher the year after a Texas legislative session. So we're currently not in that situation. So when we compare current year to the last 2 years, we're actually up. So that's a good thing for us. Executive committee packet contains full financial statements. If you're curious, I'm happy to entertain questions on that. A quick update on the internal audits for fiscal year 2025. State Bar's contracted internal auditors from the audit firm McConnell Jones completed their audits for this year. They provided 3 draft reports on information technology and security, human resources practice, and then of course, investment controls and compliance with the PFIA. Auditors will hold an exit conference with the executive team in March. Then the Audit and Finance Committee will review this on April 7th and ultimately present to the board at our April board meeting. Last thing I'll go through is that every 5 years, board policy manuals requires that we get proposals from different companies for our external audit and also for our investment advisors. So we are coming up on that this year. So the process is underway. The Audit and Finance Committee will review these proposals for financial audit services and investment management services at our April meeting and present our selection to the board at the April meeting. And this concludes my report, unless there are any questions.
Are there any, thank you very much, Director Huddleston. Are there any comments about any aspect of the report, including the financial reports, the review of the financial statements, and the internal audit reports? Thank you very much. I thought for a moment there when you said, I'm going to keep my comment short because President-elect Vargas went over. I thought, oh my gosh, he's playing time cop. He's calling out the President-elect. But after a pause, it went over the budget already. So thank you. That was a wise move not to call him out. And with that, next up, we have Judge Jerry Bullard, the section representative of the board. Your Honor, podium's yours.
Thank you, Mr. President. And I could start off every report that I ever have given in this role as our sections continue to provide a high level of services at a high quality level. And so that would be the end of the report for most sessions. And I think that would be great and everybody would love that. But I'm going to make 3 additional points, but I still want to keep the report short and sweet. On February 21st, the Council of Chairs met here at the Law Center and the chairs voted on 2 new section representatives to the board. A large section rep, Richard Crow of Houston, and the medium section rep, the Honorable Michael Davis of Palestine, were elected by the Council of Chairs and will be on the agenda at the upcoming board meeting in April. Second point, as we discussed at the last meeting, the Hispanic Issues section has proposed changing their name to the Hispanic Lawyers section. At the Council of Chairs meeting in February, the Council of Chairs unanimously approved the proposed name change. Thereafter, the section representatives to the board committee also unanimously approved that recommendation. So the board will be presented with that name change at the April meeting. The proposal has worked its way through the process correctly and quickly and will be once again on the agenda in April. And finally, the Criminal Law Justice section has submitted updated bylaws for board approval. And those bylaws will also be on the agenda at the April board meeting. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Your Honor. And before Judge Bullard sits down, are there any comments or questions from any members of the board? Thank you. Great report. And you mentioned the newly renamed Hispanic Lawyers section. I'm actually going to be providing opening remarks tomorrow morning at that section's next meeting and looking forward to that. Next, we're going to hear from one of our 2 Supreme Court liaisons to update us on what is going on at the High Court, Texas Supreme Court Justice Evan Young. Podium's yours.
Thank you. Glad to be back with you all again. We completed the terms oral arguments this past week. It was spring break week, which didn't work out very well in terms of our planning. We didn't realize that when we started putting cases on it, but it's in the rearview mirror now, and all the decisions will be released by the end of June, we expect, as usual. This month, we decided 2 administrative matters under Texas Rule of Appellate Procedure 27A that raise questions about the 15th Court of Appeals jurisdiction and whether or not a party can appeal to that court, even though the case isn't within that court's statutory exclusive intermediate appellate jurisdiction. First, in a per curiam opinion that was released, the court held that a fair reading of the statute that created the 15th court was that that court has the authority to hear only appeals and writs that are within its exclusive appellate jurisdiction and appeals that are transferred by the Supreme Court, as we do every so often in order to equalize the dockets among the courts of appeals, a process that has now gone on for more than a century. It's an interesting process and a strange one in some ways, but that's the process, and those are the ways that you can get to the 15th Court of Appeals. We also have proposed clarifying changes to Rule 27A, which are now open for public comment, so take a look at them, but they would effectuate in the rules what the per curiam holds about the statute. The 15th Court and the New Business Court have both been pretty busy. That's a new thing still for our judiciary. The 15th Court has heard oral argument in 19 cases, and they, like our court, occasionally go across the state. They will be in Houston in April to hear arguments in the 14th Court of Appeals courtroom, and they've issued 45 opinions. The Business Court has disposed of, I think, 28 cases, at least according to the data I have now. I guess we have someone who knows a lot better than I, who could have answered any of your questions had you had them about the Business Court, but you can still ask him later. A couple of other rules things. Our beloved former past president talks about AI quite frequently. And one thing that she might be surprised to hear is that in withdrawal motions, we don't even right now ask for email addresses to be included. So we have made amendments to Rule 10 of the Civil Procedure Rules and Rule 6 of the Appellate Procedure Rules to require this big, massive leap forward. Let's see how it goes. Put email addresses in a motion to withdraw from a case. And then maybe eventually we'll get to the late 20th century. And we, as the equally beloved former chair mentioned, have done something a little bit different. I brought my card as well that I received at the court for the elections. The court at the end of January issued an order that requires that the state bar holds all elections and rule votes by electronic ballot only. This is consistent with statutory direction, and the time has surely come for that, again, in keeping with the same spirit that we were just describing, unless there's some extraordinary hardship, and the order required that also to be an escape hatch for that. I'll be very curious to hear the extent to which anyone actually wants to use that, because that might also allow in the future for even more streamlined processes, which will promote financial efficiency and hopefully, again, bring us, well, are we in 2025 or not? In January, the court also finalized a rule that creates a new TBLS. We talked about the TBLS specialty areas. There's a new one that the legislature required, and that is in judicial administration. And so beginning in October 2025, examinations will begin for applicants who are judges, who have been judges for at least 4 years, and depending on the level of the judiciary, there are certain requirements for how many jury trials you've presided over, how many appellate opinions you have written. And the legislature asked for that area to be that. Usually it comes from the bar. Like there's a certain need, a new area of practice that really has developed a concentration, but this one came from the legislature, and so that's been passed. We'll see how that goes. And then lastly, I will mention that we were pleased at the court to have our colleagues from TYLA come and visit a number of us, so I won't steal any thunder from that, either today or in the fullness of time when you can describe what it is that you came. And Allison Martinez was the one that came and visited with me, but there were quite a few visits going on, and so stay tuned to see what TYLA has to offer from its time spent at the Texas Supreme Court. That's all I have to affirmatively say, but there are questions.
Do you have anything to negatively say?
Since he asked.
And with that, before Justice Young sits down, are there any comments or questions?
Okay.
Thank you very much. Well done. And that was a beautiful segue to our next report. Without embellishing adjective, I give you the president of the Texas Young Lawyers Association, Sean Masri.
President Benish, feel free to use any adjective you'd like preceding my name in the reports.
A dangerous offer.
Howdy, y'all. How's everyone this morning?
Good.
Great. Well, I'm pleased to be with you. Justice Young, thank you for the kind segue, I will talk about TYLA's visit to the Texas Supreme Court. Now, I've got a group favorite type of report today, which is a short and sweet one as well. So I've only got a few points to share with the group, but they are all some of the larger projects we've worked on this year, and I'm really excited to share. Your TYLA board has been very active as we enter this last quarter, and really start to bring the plane down and try to finish up all of our projects heading into both the April and towards our May meeting. The first one I want to mention is the TYLA's project, the Texas Law Student Hub. This was the project this year that was graciously funded through a grant by the Texas Bar Foundation. And we now have the website live. And so if you would like to visit it, it's called Law Student Hub at .tyla.org. And it takes students and prospective students, everything from the admissions process and financial aid, all the way through their entire career in law school. And the material on there is provided by subject matter experts, so your deans of law schools, your professors, and the folks who are doing the work on the ground. We're really excited this project. We're hoping that it will improve the pipeline of students who want to pursue legal education, and in particular, pursue this education here in Texas. So we're excited for it. I hope you all will take a visit. And if you all know anybody who is interested in attending law school, or maybe is already there right now, this is a fantastic resource for those. I know we've already shared it, and we're hoping to roll it out here in the next couple of months. The next one I want to mention is the one mentioned by Justice Young, which is your TYLA presidents and directors Laura Pratt, Allison Martinez, and myself visited the Texas Supreme Court last week and interviewed all 9 justices on the court. And so I want to take a moment of personal privilege and thank the court for their time spent with the TYLA board, the TYLA presidents, about their careers and how they got to their position on the court and how they view issues that are important to them as justices. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's the first time that all 9 justices have been interviewed for a single anything as the entire court. It was a rare privilege to be able to sit across from y'all and have that interview. It will go up there. We should have the editing done on all the videos by the end of this week. So hopefully they'll be up before the end of April. So probably by our April board meeting, y'all will hear more about those and be able to actually give those a listen. Next I'll mention is our national trial competition. As you all know, we're celebrating our 50th year anniversary this year. We're having a huge birthday for the competition down in Houston. It will be from April 2nd through the 5th. We hope you will join us. The birthday celebrations is on that Wednesday, which I believe is the 2nd. And then we'll have the competition throughout. If y'all also know anybody in Houston who would be interested in judging rounds, we're always looking for judges. It takes quite a bit of time to judge each of the individual rounds, and we always need a lot of manpower to get this thing done. But we're very excited for the competition. We hope we'll see y'all in Houston for it as well. The last thing I'll mention is similar to the state bar candidates, our TYLA candidates are out and about in the month of April. As they wrap up this final week of the campaign, we hope you'll welcome them. We've heard nothing but fantastic things from both Ashton Barano Butcher from Dallas and Armin Salek from Austin about the campaign. And we appreciate everything y'all have done to really be welcoming to them and continue to do so. And don't forget to vote. So with that, President Beneš, my report is concluded.
Thank you very much. Do we have any comments or questions from any directors? Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And I will say, giving equal billing, I have also seen Ashton Barano Butcher and Armin Salek out on the campaign trail around the state. And all of my comments that I made in connection with candidates, Cordova and Smith, apply as well. They're doing a wonderful job. They're working together. The 4 of them actually visited our law firm all at once last month. And that was wonderful to have them address all of our Texas offices at once. And so I'm proud of their efforts. With that, it's time for a report from our General Counsel, Ross Fisher. Mr. Fisher.
Thank you. Good morning. Just a quick reminder that your personal financial statements are due April 30th. If you haven't filed those, file them. And if you haven't filed them and you have questions, let me know. I filed mine last month. I've been filing these things for years. I know they're complicated. I served on the Texas Ethics Commission for 5 years, which actually has jurisdiction over the personal financial statement law. I thought that made me an expert on filling out the PFS until last year. I got a letter from TEC telling me that my financial statements were being audited. So now I really feel like an expert on that because I've gone through their audit process. At the board meeting, I'll give some kind of helpful hints that I've learned along the way. There's some specific stuff out there for lawyers and assets held by lawyers. So if you're going through the process of filing your PFS, feel free to reach out to me in the meantime, and I'll bring some general advice to the board meeting. Thanks.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Fisher?
One, and do I need to come up there or?
Actually, yes, if you don't mind. Considering our viewing audience.
Director Hill, my only question is if director is rolling off, do we need to submit a final PFS for this year?
Yes.
Or is the one we submitted last year?
No, if you serve any part of the year, then you have to file even the year that you're at, the year after you've left office, to show what your holdings were, your financial interests were for the time that you served. So if you serve for part of a year, then you have to file at the next annual filing deadline.
Thank you.
Good stuff, huh?
Thank you.
Super fun. It's a highlight of my spring.
And for the record, those comments are from Director Matthew Hill. So thank you very much. With that, our next report is going to be from our Chief Legal Counsel, Chris Ritter, and Mr. Ritter. Oh, there you are behind me. Do you have comments to make in open session before we go to close?
No, I don't.
Okay. With that, then, let me grab my phone. It is now 10:51 a.m. on Tuesday, March 25th, 2025, and the State Bar Board of Directors Executive Committee will now recess the open meeting and reconvene in closed session as authorized by Texas Government Code Section 551.071 for the purpose of consulting with legal counsel regarding Boudreaux versus Louisiana State Bar Association, Alford versus State Bar of Texas, Turnbull versus the Commission for Lawyer Discipline et al., Robbins versus State Bar of Texas et al., Philip Ireland versus State Bar of Texas et al., Winningham versus SBOT et al., and Jacob Barreras versus State Bar of Texas, and legal matters related to 1415 Lavaca, and legal matters related to the State Bar's Information Technology System Security, and as authorized by Texas Government Code 551.074 to deliberate regarding personnel matters, with the exception of board members, board liaisons, and section representatives. All other individuals other than board members, board liaisons, and section representatives, including non-essential staff and other guests, please excuse yourselves from this closed session. We will notify the public when we are 5 minutes away from returning to open session.
Yeah, all day long.
Okay, folks. All right, the time is currently 11:32 a.m. on Tuesday, March 25th, 2025. And the open session of the Board of Directors Executive Committee meeting will now reconvene. During the closed session, only matters relating to consultation with legal counsel regarding Boudreaux versus Louisiana State Bar Association, Alford versus the State Bar of Texas, Turnbull versus the Commission for Lawyer Discipline et al., Robbins versus State Bar of Texas et al., Philip Ireland versus State Bar of Texas et al., Winningham versus SBOT et al., and Jacob Barreras versus the State Bar of Texas, and legal matters relating to 1415 Lavaca, and legal matters relating to the State Bar's information technology system security were discussed. No action was taken in closed session. With that, I have reached the end of the agenda. We appreciate those who stepped out to step back in for the adjournment. And at this point, unless there's not anything else, I will call us into adjournment at 11:30.